All right, last one. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Listography. Albums of the Year 2019. It's the last one. Well, not the last one. We're going to do them every December, but this is the last one for the regular weekly series. If you're relatively new to the channel, you might be wondering what happened to 2020. We already did that one back in December, so go check that out. It's a super deluxe edition, full top 10s with in-depth discussion on each. So that will likely be the format going forward every December. 2019, what happened in music? Let's see. We got Meek Mill having his 2008 conviction overturned. Ariana Grande has a big year. She is the first artist since the Beatles to hold all three of the top spots on the Billboard Hot 100 simultaneously. The Beatles achieving that feat back in 1964. Lil Nas X, also with a big year. Old Town Road is number one for 19 consecutive weeks, breaking the previous record of 16 weeks. Finally bumped off the top spot by Billie Eilish's Bad Guy. And then also you have R. Kelly being sent to jail for sex crimes. Top songs of the year, Old Town Road by Lil Nas X is at the top. Sunflower by Post Malone. Without Me by Halsey. Bad Guy by Billie Eilish, and Wow by Post Malone. The top selling album of the year is Lover by Taylor Swift. Since 2011, the top selling album of the year in all but 2 years has been either Adele or Taylor Swift. So big decades for them, but that's about it. Not much else going on. Let's get into our picks. I believe Cram is up first.
Well, I'd just like to start by saying it has been a pleasure sharing my albums with the two of you, two of my best friends, music buds for life, with you out there in the public. We'll miss it on Fridays, but it'll be a good holiday present every single year until we die. And if one of us dies, we will not be replaced. It'll just be a candle being lit. 2019, pretty good year. I got a couple of fives, got a couple of 4.5s, and a lot of 4s. I listened to a lot in 2019 and went through a little bit of stuff the past couple of weeks, but I don't think it made a big change. So what do I got? Couple ones that are just missing are going to be Heard It in a Past Life by Maggie Rogers. Just missing is Atlanta Millionaires Club by Faye Webster. And just missing is On the Line by Jenny Lewis. So here's what I got in my top 5. I've got Titanic Rising by Wise Blood. Really good. Very 70s-ish. Got a... seems like everything lately we're comparing to Joni Mitchell, but definitely got some of that vocal vibe. Very cool album. I've also got a nice little kind of punk garage rock band. Nothing too flashy here, but just good old-fashioned rock songs on The Seduction of Kansas by Priests. Really good. And then I've got I by Bonny. I would assume that's correct. Or 1MI. I don't know. He just come up and use words, dude. Really good. I think kind of gets lost given how big the first two were, highly acclaimed, but I think this one is really good too. And then pretty tough call here with my 5-star albums. My runner-up is going to be an album that grew to a 5-star. I thought it was overrated before. Still do maybe a little bit, but it's Norman fucking Rockwell by Lana Del Rey. You guys know how much I love Lana Del Rey. This one is really good. But my winner is going to be Remind Me Tomorrow by Sharon Van Etten. So this one, easily her best produced album, and one of the best produced albums of the decade, I would say. She's a good songwriter for sure, but really just takes it to a new level here on this album, given just the soundscape she comes up with without overpowering the core just vibe of the song itself too. This album comes across like just really shadowy and kind of stormy in its sound. It's got a lot of like electro pop kind of vibes to it. There's even like some trip hop in it. There's even some hip hop in it. But because the songs are so like these folky pop rock songs, it brings a really unique dynamic. And it's almost like the sound is like this really cool electronic whirlwind experimental sound that she just kind of like taffy just like stretches out. If you sped it up, it would be like almost like a dancey electro like vibe to it, but it's just like really thinned out, and you get all of these same vibes, but with the warmth of the songs, it creates just this really cool atmosphere, like this really beautiful conversation you're having overlooking a thunderstorm or something. And it's produced by Joe's boy, John Congleton. I'm not much for pronunciation today. I picked the wrong vocabulary to go for, but yeah, all the songs on here, I would imagine, sound a lot different live, but the album, like I said, all about the production. Amazing songs like Jupiter 4, 17, No One's Easy to Love. I thought this album was incredible. Easily my favorite of hers. I feel like probably the other albums just don't even have this consistent of songwriting. I know I'm talking all about how good the production is, but the songs are really good. Some of her other albums have amazing songs and then kind of like a lot of fillers, kind of how I feel about them. But this one, every one of the 10 tracks is 4.5 or 5 star, really good songs. So yeah, that's my recommendation. It is my winner for 2019. Remind Me Tomorrow by Sharon Van Etten.
You know, sometimes I think we're all just picking our producers that we like. Because I keep getting caught in like the same producers. I don't even recognize the fact that this happens, but I'll go back and look at the credits, and it's like the same like 3 dudes making all of the records I like in the last 5 years. So, and it happened again in 2019. So I'll get to that shortly. In 2019, the year, I listened to exactly one album from the year before coming back to other stuff later. I actually spent the entire year listening to music without lyrics, because I was doing a lot of writing at work, so I don't like to write and listen to songs with lyrics and mute because it's kind of distracting. So I spent a lot of time listening to Bach and other, Mozart, Beethoven. And I also spent a lot of time listening to chip tunes from video games, Shovel Knight soundtrack. And most of the year I spent, if you look, this is very embarrassing, but if you look at my top 100 songs on Spotify, most of them are going to be from a band called Mega Driver. And the album is Metalvania. It's metal covers of Castlevania songs. It was a weird year for me, all right? But that is seriously what I listened to most. That album came out in 2016, however, so it's not eligible for 2019. So I had to go back, listen to some other things. I had heard a couple more albums after 2019. I listened to some last year and some this year before we got to this 2019 album of the year. So I was able to come up with some surprisingly high scores. I actually have 5 records, all 4.5 or above, which I don't even know, it doesn't happen much for me in these decades. So despite my lack of records, I still found a whole bunch I like, a couple runners up, Western Stars by Bruce Springsteen, Father of the Bride by Vampire Weekend. Somehow this is my favorite Vampire Weekend. On the Line, Jenny Lewis, very good. And Jesus is King by Kanye West. Somehow he does a gospel album. It's pretty darn good. He can do it all. But the top 5 is going to be, I got Jamie by Brittany Howard, which I like more than the Alabama Shake stuff. Super soulful. She's got a killer voice, obviously. And I kind of like her direction and what she does without the band. I feel like the band kind of held her back and sort of pigeonholed the whole sound. This is more freeing. Solo, she does whatever she wants. It's great. I also got NFR, Norman Rockwell. I don't like to swear on the internet. By Lana Del Rey. Very good album. I'm sorry, Cram, I know that upsets you.
Yeah, fuck you, dude.
Great album from Lana. She's just on a roll. It's not that different than all the other ones, but man, it's a Lana Del Rey album. So take that as it will. I also got You Deserve Love by White Reaper. Super catchy power pop, little modern punk energy to the vocals. It's really, really catchy. The only males on my top 5 this year. My runner-up is going to be my girl, Carly Rae Jepsen, with Dedicated. She's my favorite pop artist. Always interesting, always different. This one, I don't know if I like it better than Emotion, but it's probably a little more consistent. Maybe not the tippy top highs that Emotion has. I also don't have the emotional connections as much with this one, but that was the only album I listened to in 2019 was Dedicated by Carly Rae Jepsen. My winner, however, and it gets back to the point where I was listening, I was really digging this album, and I went and I looked at the producer and I was like, can I do that again? Can I pick Jason's favorite person again? But I did. My winner is Titanic Rising by Wise Blood. Just a fantastic record. And I almost didn't pick it because when I looked at the personnel on Wikipedia, I see both of the D'Addario brothers from the Lemon Twigs. I see Jason's BFF, Blake Mills. And of course, it was produced by Jonathan Rado. So it's just like, do I just really like Jonathan Rado or do I like this album by Wise Blood? I've decided I really like this album and I really like Jonathan Rado. I can do both. And I love the D'Addario brothers on this. They do a great job. Same with Blake Mills. The playing on this album is phenomenal. Like Kramzer said, there's a little 70s Joni Mitchell vibe, but I also think she modernizes it well. There is a track, Movies, that has this, like, it kind of sounds like a Muse song. Like it's got this great synth arpeggio line throughout it. But she does do the Joni Mitchell a little bit. I think it's a little tempered. Doesn't quite have like the flights of fancy on her voice that Joni does, but she still does that like quick ramp up on syllables you get the Joni vibe from it without it being like a copycat. She's a great voice, and there's just little elements. It's the 70s elements. There's this great Moog synth on Mirror Forever. Get like these Stevie Wonder vibes mixed in. Just a great album. I mean, for this year, it kind of makes me think of like the St. Vincent, how she sort of tried to go back for the 70s. I think this is a lot more successful for a couple of reasons. I think the playing's better on this. The production, if you want to do a 70s album, you better call up friggin' Jonathan Rado, because he is the man, and all these players just nail the vibe completely. I think she does enough to keep it from being a rip-off of the 70s and too much of an homage, because there's a lot of modern sounds in there, and she sounds pretty modern in her voice. A lot of interesting, it's kind of a concept album about the Titanic, and then there's also stuff about global warming and leaving the earth to children, and they might not have an earth because the seas are rising, whatever she's talking about. She sells it really well, and she's just a really interesting artist, and it's a really well-produced album with some great guitar playing and bass from the Blake Mills and the D'Addarios. I don't know which one plays which, but the playing on this album is just phenomenal, and she sounds great. So it's going to be my 5-star winner for 2019, Titanic Rising by Wise Blood.
Yeah, Andromeda is maybe my favorite song of the year. I love that song.
Andromeda is awesome. Mirror Forever is probably my favorite because of that sweet synth moog, whatever, in the background. Just super catchy, really nails the 70s vibe. So obviously I like it.
Yeah, great album. In my top 20, not in my top 5, but a good opportunity to shout out a 2020 album, the album Fear of Death by Tim Heidecker, which Natalie Merring sings on with him. Jonathan Rado produces, the Lemon Twigs play on it. Definitely, if you like this album, check that one out. It's really good also. All right, we'll get into some of my just misses. Paper Castles by Alice Phoebe Lou. Heart Hunger by Myrna. Really cool band from San Francisco. Designer by Aldous Harding. Miami Memory by Alex Cameron. Atras Alem by Uterno. Really cool Brazilian band. Two Hands by Big Thief. Eraserland by Strand of Oaks, and Crushing by Julia Jacklin. My top 5, though, I've got The Future Is Still Ringing in My Ears by Sam Cohen, another one of those guys that shows up in a lot of places for me, and this is really good. He won for me in 2015. At first, I didn't think this follow-up was quite as good, but it really grew on me a lot the more I listened to it, and fights its way into the top 5. I also have The Texas Piano Man by Robert Ellis, which Robert Ellis, one of my favorite musicians of the last decade. I think he's absolutely incredible, and I always go to see him whenever he's nearby. I've seen him a bunch of times, but he hasn't made my top 5 yet. His records always just feel a little inconsistent, and I don't think they quite capture what he does live. But with this one, he switches from guitar, which he's an amazing guitar player. He switches to piano, and just the songs are so good. Knocks it out of the park. Really cool album. I have Atlanta Millionaires Club by Faye Webster. Great record, really cool kind of blending of like folk and country and R&B. She was on Awful Records for a little while, which I think is more of like a hip hop label. And she kind of like hung out with that crew. So that kind of seeps into her sound. It's really, really unique. And I think her songwriting is great. I've also got as my runner-up Bird Songs of a Killjoy by Bedouin. Awesome record. Didn't think she could improve upon her debut, but she did. The songwriting, the production, everything's a little bit better. A little bit of psychedelia creeping into the folk rock sound. Absolutely beautiful record. But my winner is going to be Oh My God by Kevin Morby. Really awesome record. I forget how many records he had before this, but I'd been listening to them and I really, really liked Singing Saw in 2015. So I had high expectations for this record, but I could not have anticipated how good it was going to be. This just like completely obliterated all of my expectations. The record is kind of like a meditation on religion and spirituality from the point of view of a person that isn't really religious. It's also kind of like a celebration of the life-affirming power of rock and roll. It's really awesome. Anyone who likes like Dylan, Lou Reed, Nick Cave, Leonard Cohen, any of these kind of like rock and roll poets, I would say this is a must listen. Really bluesy, gospel-y, really, really cool. I love the lyrics on it. One of my favorite lyrical records of the decade. Just really, really fantastic. Saw him live with Sam Cohen this year. Sam Cohen, by the way, produced this record. Big surprise. But they played, Sam Cohen opened and then stayed on as Kevin Morby's guitarist. And it was just a fantastic show at the 930 Club. My first time there. Loved it. Loved the record. A must listen, I think.
I can't get into Kevin Morby. He floats around 3 and 3.5 for me, but never elevates beyond that, unfortunately. Great Jason pick, though, for sure.
Very Jason year again. All these years just seem like Jason years.
Yeah, I love this decade, which we will talk about, I guess, when we do the recap, sort through which our favorite decades are. But yeah, there you have it. That's all of the years. We have been talking among the three of us about what is going to replace this series. And there will be something coming soon. I don't know exactly how soon, and I don't know exactly the form that it'll take, but keep a lookout. It won't be long. There will be something else on Fridays very shortly. But thanks for everyone who's watched the whole series, played along, left comments, gave recommendations, made guesses of what we were going to pick week to week. It has been a lot of fun. And I think this series, probably more than any other, has really kind of built the community on the channel, especially down in the comments, and people not even talking to us, just people talking amongst themselves. It's been really cool to watch. So thank you for that. If you liked the video, be sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. If you're not subscribed yet, check the description for links to all of our social media, and we will see you in the next one.